This is for everyone that was out a little too late last night. I think I see some of you in the room, so I'm proud of you for being awake and being part of our discussion today. My name's Jeff Bosch. I'm the chair of the Broker Advisory Workgroup.
I'm Nina Dosanjh, Vanguard Properties in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Exactly. So, by the way, any first-time attendees for the work group today? A couple of them here. So this is the non-technical work group, right? We don't speak techie language. We really just are here to have a conversation, to have a connection between the brokers and the non-brokers in the data community. And by the way, how many brokers are in the room? Just a show of hands. Like I can see like a couple of you hiding in the back there. So, right, so it's a smaller subset, but what is really interesting, right, is that pretty much everything that we do collectively is generated by the brokers, is consumed by the brokers, or some way you augment the data that they supply. So with that, we've been doing a thing where we've invited local brokerages to be on stage with us the last couple sessions. It's been a great thing, and so today we also have a little bit special kind of twist or the way it intertwines with something that RESO's doing. So
yeah, so for the first time, brokerages and vendors are able to be RESO certified using the RESO common format. And I think what's exciting there for brokerages is that we are now going to have an ability on the back end outside of the MLS to transfer data between vendor partners and with our MLS as well. So like when we think about roster data or we think about the back end systems of technology products that brokerages use, now there's a real easy way to facilitate that data. And it's a really exciting piece of kind of what we might be talking about in terms of some of the pain points that brokerages have and how this could really solve those problems for brokerages and also kind of assist the MLSs as well, right? Because we all want accurate data and we want valued data. So, yeah.
There you go. So with that, actually, Anna Marie and John, if you want to come up on stage. So everybody give them a big round of applause for coming up and... Guys, grab the middle seats. There you go. All right, so I guess
think we could just start with letting you guys introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from, what offices you're working in, how many MLSs you work with. I think that would be a good start.
Age before beauty. You go first, John.
All right. John Perry. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer with ARC Realty here in Birmingham. We cover Montgomery, Huntsville, and Birmingham areas. And some of the surrounding kind of stuff around that. Through that, we cover, I believe, 6 MLSs and about 850 agents. So,
Anna Marie Ellison. I'm with operations with ERA King Real Estate. We have 9 offices. We are in 6 MLSs. And I think that was the questions, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep, exactly. And I know when we do the prep call, right, like the big thing is always like, who is RESO? Like, do you have any interaction with them? Anna Marie, one of the first things that you talked about when we started is you were diving in right away with like stats and things that you were trying to work with your local MLS. Is there anything you can share with us about that? Or
No, Michael McKay is like my BFF at the MLS because I'm always calling and asking him, how can we do this? How do I extract that to get it to tell the story that I need it to tell on the brokerage level? And statistics is a big piece of that. And if the MLS is not putting out some of the information that is available, the story that can be told, then I want my brokerage to be able to tell that story around that and obviously be able to compare what the market's doing to how our broker is doing, not brokerage is doing, not just from a brokerage as a whole, but then take it down to the agent level. This is how you're doing compared to the other competitors in your market, other agents in the market.
Fantastic. And then John, your role with marketing, like how do you interact with MLS data?
So my interaction is probably different than most. I don't come from a real estate background. I come from a pure marketing background. So, data is kind of the backbone of everything I've always been doing. Our interaction with it, I truly look at the MLS, like my interaction with it is more as a repository of that general information. If you think about the data that we're looking at, it's more product features on a non-standardized product that's out there. If you look at a car, you can think of a year, make, and a model. Houses are so different. Without that aggregated information, it's almost impossible to look at, particular markets and areas with square footage, bed bath, stuff like that. So, using that from the back end and pushing out through materials.
Gotcha. Okay.
So one of the things that we kind of touched on in our prep call was kind of the marketing side for images, right? And what a broker does on the back end for their own website to populate high resolution photos. And I think that that was one of your pain points, which was, you know, maybe I don't want a watermarked photo, or maybe I don't want the photo in this format. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you guys are doing in terms of like populating that imagery and what you're looking for from, you know, maybe not from the MLS directly, but like what's the pain point on the back end?
Absolutely. So like I was talking about, I mean, that's the one place you can get aggregated information very quickly, photos being a large part of that. I mean, imagery for houses is one of the biggest things that's going to sell them. So having to go to the MLS and pull the photo back out, it's been compressed and it typically ends up a whole lot grainier. You've got a watermark on it that's not necessarily ours. And then if I do want to do a high resolution anything, I've got to go back to the agent, get a Dropbox of the original photos, and it's adding a step that if I had that aggregated on my own in a way that I could easily access or not compress would make my life a whole lot easier.
Well, and any information that goes into the MLS is kind of watered down because it's supposed to be, you know, company neutral, agent neutral. And so all of the things that you, as a company, marketing and then in my company, that we would want to put out there, we would want it to be very specific to what would make them want to work with my agent, my company. And when the source of truth is MLS, and it's completely watered down, doesn't have any of the value of why you should work with ERA King Real Estate, then that's a pain point, is the MLS being the source of truth for the beginning of marketing, the beginning of potentially that customer journey. Or from a brokerage standpoint, we've already grabbed them at our CRM, and having something that's a little more streamlined, and maybe the back office solution that we're using has writing capability to the MLS, and so they're sending only this, and this RESO compliant fields to MLS, and then they're sending these RESO compliant fields to this vendor, this vendor, this vendor. That way the MLS is still the housing, the index, the archive of all of the properties in the area, because there's still value in that. But then there's also some richer data being sent to our other vendors that are RESO compliant fields that we're sending out. There's value in that, and that's currently a pain point for us.
So I think when we were originally talking, you were thinking about being the originator of the data and being able to send that to the MLS, and so you were the starting point. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me what your thought process is there?
When was the last time you got your oil changed? Right? If it's been recently, you've got your oil changed with somebody who's using an iPad, they've pulled in Carfax, they check in to say, yes, this is right, now their mileage is this is that we changed the windshield wiper blades. Their person that's conducting with me, the consumer, is putting all that information right there in that iPad. We have the ability to do that now with our back office software. So the agent's putting in quality data. Now they send it in, it's then given to somebody else who then has to put it in the MLS, so then it goes where it needs to go. If that were a perfect scenario, they'd put it in the iPad, it'd go directly to our software vendor that we use. That would then write the limited information that MLS wants to go directly in there, but then we could drop in my King watermarked photos, like John was talking about, to go to Zillow, to go to Trillia, to go to our CMA provider. Or we can put, hey, call ERA King. We offer these buyer incentives. We offer these cashback bonus, whatever the incentives are that we're using to track that client. Then that information can go directly to those marketing vendors or whoever else we need them to go to. But the MLS is still getting the MLS information that they want.
Right, and you know, we've had a lot of discussion about photos, but it's not just that. There's other things that are limitations in the MLS, and we talked about a couple of those on the call, like limit of characters.
Yep.
You know, what are other things that are kind of limiters that you find that the data, you're not getting back the depth that you need?
Well, one of them puts bathrooms as 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. The other one rounds it up to 4.3, which is it?
Right. You're getting different sets
Yes.
back, and it doesn't necessarily apply. Anything in regards for you that you can think of beyond photos and characters? Or?
I mean, those are probably the biggest ones for me. It is different MLS to MLS, the information in and information out and kind of the way it's portrayed. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, again, I look at it mostly as it's a single place that I can access all of this stuff. And I do think it's a great thing for consumers, and it's a great thing for marketing, and it's a great thing to be able to pull statistics and data and all that stuff off. So I probably have a different relationship with it than some of the deeper operations sides on it. Our IDX feed is the one, coming out through our website, any of the stuff that we're pushing through those that I do need to pull from everybody else. But we do have some particular tools that really only access and use our own information. So it would be great to not have to go through a third party, be able to push that out ourselves.
Gotcha. And I think you expanded on this a little bit, but like in a perfect world, if you were sending it out yourselves, like how would that data flow? Like you send it out to your vendors, you send it to the MLS at a similar time, or like do you envision that as a different data flow?
I see it going all at the same time. I mean, we still have to abide by the MLS rules. The listing paperwork's listed today. It has to be in MLS within 24 hours of you having active marketing. So I don't see that changing at all. I just see the depth of information being greater if the brokerage is the source versus the MLS being the source of starting to market the property.
Right.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing there is that, there is definite kind of nuances in markets. We see this in San Francisco in terms of, the agent might want to describe all of the things maybe about the neighborhood or, whatever the characteristics are. And I think that there are some limitations there. But for San Francisco, I think one of the things that's very interesting is that, there is this kind of preset of listing data that lives in the brokerage kind of office back end or our exclusives, whatever that is. And there should be some mechanism for the sharing of that information. And so I guess I think I'd be curious to know, like, in terms of like the marketing photos, right? Are you having somebody on the back end going and populating those high resolution images?
So for us, I mean, the agents are putting them in the MLS. If we're moving quickly, we will go grab them straight off the feed on that. But yeah, if it's a high-end piece or we're blowing it up bigger than something about that big, we will reach out to the agent directly, get a Dropbox file of the original from the photographer and use those. And the difference is significant.
And some of the photographers that the agents use in the greater Alabama MLS, they are an affiliate member of the MLS, so they will upload directly once the listing's in a partial. So again, we're not even getting that original file because it's going directly to the MLS.
So an extra step that kind of slows us down a little bit if we want to do something different, which makes it the path of least resistance. It's kind of grabbing what's available.
That's right.
So in both cases, you're really maintaining kind of multiple different systems, right? You're touching things multiple times for any particular listing because you're trying to input whatever you need on the MLS side, but also gather what you need for brokerage operations, be it marketing or whatever. So the ideal world would to be not have to touch it multiple times, right?
Right, and I think the agent should only have to write their customer's name one time, one place, the first time. And surely to goodness, there's a bunch of bright people in this room that we can figure out like how that happens and the way it all talks seamlessly across any ways that an agent or a brokerage and then the MLS wants to have this information archived forever and ever.
Sure. So if you're touching multiple different vendors, you have a relationship with the MLS, we had the conversation about working with them to get different stats and different things. Like what is important from a brokerage aspect as far as a relationship with a vendor or with an MLS? Like what are the most important attributes of that relationship?
John would tell you how many drinks they bought him at the bar.
There you go. It's a great place to start.
It opens the door.
Yep. Well, this is a good crew for that, by the way, because you just missed the Bloody Mary bar. So,
just a good faith trust, knowing that they're looking out for our best interests. We're looking out for what we're trying to maintain, what they're doing, knowing that it's a good cause from the MLS side. I mean, again, that information just on its own is meaningless. Once it's aggregated, it kind of becomes more statistical, something you can actually analyze and do work with. So there needs to be a central place in it, and everyone just needs to be looking out. Knowing that they're looking out for our interests as well as looking out for theirs, I think is a good start on that.
Yeah, and I would just add that I like to look at the nimbleness of the vendor that we're talking to and then listening to how the pitch of the product I know that any of the products that we want to stand behind, I want a obnoxiously, stupidly high adoption rate from the agents that are going to be using whatever it is we're adopting. And so if I don't think that we can have a quick adoption rate, or they're not going to use it in their everyday, and it doesn't seamlessly drop in, then it probably won't work, which is fine for you because you want it to work for our agents too, but you got to trust that I know how our agents will adopt and the type of things that they like and just the speed of delivery and that type of thing.
Well, an adoption rate is an interesting thing, especially anybody in the room that's, runs an MLS or is providing a service, right? Like, what is a good adoption rate varies incredibly by product and by market. So I'm just curious, an amazingly high adoption rate is what you said, not to put you on the spot, but like, what would that be? Like what, for ERA King, like what would make you happy for what your agents are using?
We just transitioned to a new CRM platform because of the franchise I'm affiliated with. The one we had before, we had an 87% adoption rate of that CRM across our agents, and we had 210 agents. So I was pretty dang proud of that, but we were able to tell a story around the data that came behind that of an agent who uses a CRM, logs in more than 8 times a month, sends 10 emails, touches 20 of their clients, outproduces the MLS, thanks to the MLS stats that we're able to get by this much, which turns into a $37,000 more money made to them that year. Like, we're able to paint that story because of the way the tech talks. We're not there yet with our new one. Anytime you introduce, realtors are the brakes of America when it comes to change. And so
all these folks in the room know that.
Yeah, they all know that.
it's like a hard stop. Thanks to the pandemic, everybody's using a digital signing platform now. We never thought we would get that type of adoption rate. So, yeah.
Awesome.
And I think, I guess that would be the same question for marketing products, right?
Same thing. And I mean, I will go into some tools, I will go in with a accepted adoption depending on the tool and what it is. Because, I mean, not every agent's going to work the same way. I mean, our CRM is the one that we look at for kind of the bigger ones. We're probably in that 85% range. But we've got some tools that I know is going to hit a smaller segment that I'll go in for kind of a 20%. 30%, something on there. That depends on cost, what it is, type, and if you're hitting top agents versus new agents versus different stuff. So there's different kind of archetypes that you can pick out for different tools on those. But yeah, finding one that'll work with you. And really, when I'm looking at new tools, use case is my number one. And so that's where I will go in. I may look at this and say, I know only 15% of people are going to use it, but the use case is worthwhile and provides an economy of scale for A, B, and C, either for my team or for them. That really does start to make a shift.
Yeah. And also, I know John probably thinks about this too, is the agent's going to be using it from their car. So if it's not mobile first, and I don't mean like one that you can make smaller, I mean like it is truly designed mobile first because they're using it in their car. The expectation of having them come into the office to do anything is not happening these days, unless we have a Bloody Mary bar or something fun. Right. So I'm just saying, like, so we have to think about whatever we're delivering, where is the agent going to be using it, and is the platform that they're going to be using it on, is it realistic for them?
And we didn't talk about this in advance, but just since you brought that up, I'm curious because like one of the challenges as a former broker, like to that point, like enabling them to be mobile, but then are there things like, for instance, are you comfortable with like contract creation on a mobile phone, as opposed to sitting down at a computer and seeing like, are there thresholds where mobile doesn't make sense, I guess is what I'm saying, to your comfort level, your oversight, your operations?
So 3 years ago, I would have probably told you that an agent should always probably have to get on their laptop in order to look at MLS. Well, we had some younger agents join our company that we were talking about one day, and this product isn't around anymore, but she said, I've never logged into the Greater Alabama MLS. I do everything on HomeSnap. And like my mind was blown that she was setting up hers. She was never even logging in. Whatever HomeSnap had in was what she was telling her clients about, how she was scheduling her showings, how she was doing CMAs, which that's another conversation for me and her. But that was just very eye-opening to me that she wasn't even logging into this, and it took me a minute, but then I realized there's more like her that have never even sat down to log into Paragon. They're using a vendor provider that's supporting the MLS to do all their stuff, and that was just, she's 23. it was just very, very eye-opening
Right.
to me that that's the way that was the most comfortable for her to work.
If there's a way to access it on the phone, I think they're going to try to access it on the phone
Yeah.
in one way. Whether or not that's the right way to do it,
Right.
they will try.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think, agents are becoming faster. They want things faster, quicker, easier. What is going to be the best? I don't want to have to sit down and learn something. I also don't want to teach the agents that, right? Like you want something that the usability of that product is super easy. Because you're going to have people that are 23 and that are going to go run with it. They don't need the education. They're going to open the application and they got it. And then you're going to have the other segment of your agent community that actually has no idea and is asking you what's a browser. And so there's a wide range, I think, on our end, on the broker side, when you're looking at a product. But one of the really important things is the kind of the partnership with the MLS, because without that, I think the vendor partners really can't do what they want and we can't get what we want, right? And I think as we were talking about kind of that collaboration with brokers and MLSs, I think that part of it is really important. And I think that one really great thing about the broker work group advisory, there's been a lot of great wins that we've had just based out of conversations like this that get people like you thinking about how you can do different things for brokers. And I think that that's like a core component, right? I think for us to be able to continue to do business the way that we want to do it. Yeah.
And I think too, for those few people that raise their hands that this is their first session, right? This is potentially a starting point, right, in the conversation. We don't do the technical stuff, right? Transport, R&D, all of them pick up and run with whatever might come out of these conversations and try to find a solution for that. But I mean, ultimately, really, I think it's having conversation with the brokerage community on the regular. I mean, that was one of my first starts in the MLS space, was just an outreach, like what's broken, what are you using, where are your roadblocks? And I'm just curious, like, I don't want to put your MLS on the spot, but like, what is that conversation like? Like, do you have interaction back and forth? I mean, I know you've got like a direct line, sounds like, so you literally have the bat phone, you can pick it up.
Mike.
Exactly. But I mean, are there challenges in that communication? Or are there things that you just think, hey, I wish that this was easier or simple or a more regular type of thing where I can give feedback or, kind of gives my wants, wishes, desires to make that work?
I think whether it's with the MLS or tech providers that are in the room or anybody in leadership, if you want to understand how your product is being used from on the daily, you need to go and live the day in the life of an agent. Go and send your team, your R&D people to live a day in the life of the brokerage. Sit with their administrative staff. Watch them put listings in MLS. Watch them put listings in the CRM. Watch them put the listing, the data, and then you'll see how they're actually utilizing in real life. How you drew it up on paper is actually the way that play is playing out.
Yep.
And like I said, that would be whether that's the MLS, whether you're a leader in your own company, whether you're a tech provider, go to a local company and say, hey, can I hang out with you for the day and just see how you're operating, see how you're actually using this. Are you using it the way we thought you would?
Yeah.
And then maybe another question too, to that point, right? Typically when an MLS adopts something or software provider has something that, there's a lot of value add in package training, things like that. But, everybody, maybe has a webinar, quick link, some type of resource. Does that often connect with the agents, or is there sometimes a disconnect where either, this is a safe place. Like, I'm married to a realtor and I'm a former realtor. I mean, RDR is a real thing, right? Realtors do not read on the regular basis. But like, how do you, like, I get the 23-year-old that's picking up the phone, that it needs to be intuitive and they're there. But if they're not that person, if they're average age realtor or whatever that maybe isn't tech first in their lifetime, like, what is the most beneficial for them to get up and learn a new product and get going?
Well, first thing, they have to know it exists, and they will hear that the fifth or sixth time that we tell them about it. And so you've got to be pretty omnipresent in how you're talking about, and that's where it really is picking the ones that are most important, and because you have to pound it into their heads in 1,000 different ways just to get it in front of them that they know it's there.
Right.
And then from a training perspective, in my personal opinion, the way we approach our brokerage, if we can't put a face in front of them, it's probably not going to go as well. We'll write up documents. We have all kinds of training videos, all that stuff just kind of stored away. But we push the trainings really, really hard to get a person. So, we've had good success of having people, representatives from the MLS come and talk to us, and I think that that's gotten through the agents really well. But if we can train someone inside the building, they can be talking to them on a regular basis, because not everyone can show up to a training, but somebody may make it to the office once or twice. So if they can grab them, show it to them, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think training probably needs to be spent more on the office staff and the brokers, and making sure they are subject matter experts on said platform, because the agents will come and they'll listen, they'll eat the free lunch, they'll drink the free alcohol, but they're not really absorbing it until the time of crisis, and they need it right that second. And then they're blowing up our office team going, I have something in 30 minutes, I'm on my way to, can you help me with? And so the office team is the one that's then going to be either doing that for them or leading them through that in the moment of crisis, because they've waited to the last minute, or they can't time plan, or whatever all the reasons agents have for why they didn't know about this until right this second. And
I really think we can't reinforce that enough. I've lived that life too. Like, a lot of times we think from, hey, we have this resource, it's the link, my devs for our development team are thinking, hey, this is simple, I know it's there. Like, they have this mind memory of where it's at because they use it every day. But it is a real battle. Like, you can stand in front of an office or train an agent, and you can say it 6 times over a year. And like the 6th time, they're like, wow, that's amazing. I've never heard of that before. I've never seen it. And you're like, I've done this 6 times, It's like the whole just-in-time theory, right? Like, if they're not ready to absorb it, it doesn't click, so.
There's a couple of things that I tell my agents, and I tell them, we have our internal dashboard that has, all of the tiles and the buttons. And I tell them, press all the buttons. Like, see where it takes you. You're not going to break the thing, but, you have to know how to sell it to your agents in terms of what it's going to create for them in terms of value for more clients or more sales or better data, whatever that is. Because most of you probably have all of the tools that an agent would need outside of what a brokerage even provides to their agents. And so, from that selling point, like, there are tools that our MLS provides, and I mention this to agents, and they're like, well, I never knew I could do that. And I think they're not going to go watch a video. They're not going to watch a recorded webinar. You need a butt and a seat with a person that can do the actual training. And I think that's where we've found that we have the most success with products, when there are people, and we are encouraging people. Look, we went through 3 years of, kind of no in-person, and we need to bring the community and bring the agents back together in person in real life.
But it's not going to be the broker. Like, when was the last time you did a listing in MLS?
Never.
Same. Like, it's been a minute since I've had to put something in MLS, but we've got a team, you've got a team, that those are the ones that need to be proficient on MLS tools, because they're the ones actually the doers. But I'm the one, or John's the one, that gets all the email communication about how to set this up. And here's the tutorial. There's a sub-layer of people that actually have their hands on the agents and interact with the agents more with that daily activity than him or I would.
And I will say, videos are okay when talking to us sometimes.
Yeah.
I would love to go. I would much rather have an opportunity to ask questions, but I can manage a video, but I need to get to a place that I can understand it well enough, because if you're doing what I'm doing, you have to be able to kind of interpret those. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to an agent, they say, you make this look so easy. I say, well, everything's easy once you know what buttons to push.
Yeah, that's right.
But it is just learning, okay, this does this, and this does this, and this does this, but that's hard if you have no idea what those buttons mean.
And the comment about agents putting the brakes on, I feel like I have to steal that and reuse that somewhere, because I think one of the challenges for everyone in the room, right, is when we walk out and we try to do training or we try to interact, the first thing I'll ask is, like, who are my techies in the room? And like 3 agents will raise their hand. And then the next question is, who are the, oh my God, please don't move the button crowd? And like 3/4 of the room raises their hand, right? Because agents deal with change all the time, with changes in municipalities, contracts, lending laws, but you mess with the MLS or the technology that they're using, and it really does throw them for a loop.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, I think the MLS moved around some buttons on our home screen, and you would have thought like the world had imploded. And I was like, it's on the right side, not the left side. But it's still there, and it was just, it rocked their world.
We had a UX change on our CRM last week, mainly for our dashboard, and how you log in does not change, but to your point, the color of the button did.
That's correct.
I sent an email, highlighted the section I talked about it, sent screenshots with circles and arrows, and the number of phone calls we got was astounding.
Yes.
But,
and you can imagine when you move the copier. Jeez.
All right, well, we're winding down. I'm just curious if you have any parting thoughts. I mean, you've got a room full of people that touch real estate data in all different ways. Just anything, day in the life of a broker, anything that you want to share with them, or anything about the way that you would like to see the world work as far as your technology solutions, anything like that.
I'm just thankful for the opportunity to speak on this panel today. I have a ton of respect for RESO because of how we interact with it and the number of different vendors, the vendors we haven't worked with because it was too hard for the things to talk. And I think of y'all, like the ocean. I think it looks pretty. I like the way the sun comes out. I can kind of stay in the shallow water, but I don't know where any of the riptides or the sharks are in this audience. But I know the way I want it to work, and I know just enough, and I know how pretty I want it to be. And I just have a lot of respect for you, just like I do the ocean, and know that you can all take my life as well. So.
I don't know how I can live up to any statement like that. But no, I mean, mainly just I'm excited to meet people out here. Finding good partners and partnerships is incredibly important. I mean, the MLS is one that we are, for better or worse, tied to. And so it really is the better we can do to kind of offer up our needs so y'all better understand those. And I mean, even some of the tools that are provided, maybe understand what we're trying to do from an individual level and separate ourselves. And if we don't have overlapping tools, I think that can go a long way as well. Maybe find some stuff that fill gaps that y'all could do better than we could do individually and that we wouldn't want to use to separate ourselves as brokerages. But very excited to be here and talk to everybody.
Awesome. John, Anna Marie, thank you
Thank you so
very
much.
much. We appreciate your time.